The reality we live in can be a very strange place. Most of the time, fact being stranger than fiction. How will we ever start to understand this reality we live in unless we question everything? Join me and a guest as we unravel the mysteries of this reality, one topic at a time. This is Inquiries of Our Reality with Shayn Jones.
What is up, Inquirers, and welcome to the expanse of deep, open-minded conversation. I'm the one they call Shane, and today for you guys, I have a fascinating story about a not once, but two-time lottery winner who actually received those winning numbers from some other voices/beings on the other side. But before we can get into this fascinating story today, we of course have a couple of quick news and updates. First of which is that if you guys might be interested in joining the OMM Discord community, that link is available down in the show description so you guys can find it quick and easy. And once we get it rolling, hopefully there'll be a lot more activity in there, a lot more new stuff going on, probably some special live shows that are only be available for the Discord, but we have to build up that community first, get a bunch of people talking. So again, that sounds like something you guys might be interested in. Go and check out that link, again, down in the show notes. And also, I am still doing the free t-shirt giveaway. All you guys have to do to enter for that is fill out a 10-question survey that I also have the link available for down in the show description. And after we hit 50 submissions for that, then I will use a random number generator, and the winner will receive any t-shirt they want off of the Open Minds Media merch store. And all of your guys' opinions go for helping the show grow and improve. So anything you guys submit, I greatly, greatly appreciate. And if you've been hanging out, listening to the show live, the next Bizarre Inquiries that you guys will be able to catch live will be on June 3rd, and that'll be at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as usual, over there on the Open Minds Media YouTube channel. There will be, of course, more updates as we get closer to that, and there will be a post on social media the week of, so you guys will be able to mark that in your guys' calendars. But the easiest way to do it is make sure you guys hit that bell notification up in the corner, and then anytime we go live throughout the week, because we usually go live almost every single night with either this show or my other show, Bizarre Encounters. But if you guys want to get that schedule at the beginning of the week, you guys will be able to find it on Mondays over there across social media. And as I brought it up, my other show, Bizarre Encounters, I don't feel like I promoted it enough. So if you guys enjoyed this show and you guys enjoy Bizarre Inquiries with Orin and I, and you guys want to catch some more of Orin and I deep diving into different things and having some guests on, then don't forget to, again, go check out my other show, Bizarre Encounters with Shayn and Orin. And one last thing before we get into the show, if anyone is interested in being a guest on the show, sharing their experiences or encounters, or contacting me for any reason whatsoever, you guys can email me at inquiriesofourrealitypodcast@outlook.com, or you guys can also call or text the Open Minds Media hotline. That number is 313-364-1551. And if you guys didn't catch that, that is available down in the show notes. And every single thing that I mention and will mention throughout the show is all available in the link tree, which is also available down in that show description. And with that, let's get into the show. Please welcome to the show, after a year of trying to get him on the show and a lot of back and forth, please welcome Gary Arnold.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. I'm here in Oxford, Pennsylvania, and it's supposed to thunderstorm tonight. So there's even a tornado watch, which I've always been, I have an interest in weather, and especially fringe weather like hail and lightning and all that stuff. So it could be an exciting night, but I don't think we'll have any power outages from over here.
I say, cross your fingers, you don't have any power outages. That's the main thing when it comes to these podcasts, and I hear about severe weather. Like I've had to reschedule so many shows because of people in Hawaii, for example, with the storms come in there and everything just gets knocked out. So as long as you're staying safe over there and you're not getting tornadoes.
Wouldn't it be nice to live in Hawaii?
I don't know, man. I mean, I see the pictures of it, like, you don't think it's that far off, but once you actually look at it on a map, you realize it's like in the middle of the ocean. And after seeing that and hearing like the tsunamis and like all of the hurricanes, everything that come in, like, yeah, maybe I want to visit, but I don't know if I would actually want to live there.
I'm with you, because it is out in the middle of nowhere, really.
And I mean, any disaster happens, like, where do you go, man? Like, that's the scariest part. You can't just hop on a plane and go back off to the mainland. I mean,
no, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Well, I guess not to get too side tangent onto weather and stuff, for anybody that may not be familiar with who you are, what you do, and what your interest was to come on the show and share, why don't you let everybody know a little bit about yourself and a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my birthday is this weekend. I'm excited about that.
Well, happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. I turned 58, and it's been quite a life, quite a crazy life as it is.
42, you start counting backwards once you hit 50. So you're 42 now.
Well, this part of my life fell into my lap. Go back, it was in December 14th, 2017, working in academia at the local HBCU. And in my background, I've worked at all kinds of places, W.L. Gore in quality control, the legal dimensions, a file clerk, very, very, jack of all trades, master of none kind of guy. So yeah, this strange thing happened. It started December 14th, 2017. I would usually take my lunches over in the university library, and usually it's to get away from the kids, so I have a little time to myself. It's true. And so this day, the kids already went home for the holiday break because it's mid-December. So we still had staff and faculty around, primarily staff. But I went over to my usual, haunt, I'm going to use that word, and just did some free reading like I usually would. I'm a history buff, so I like lots of older stories and world history and World War II stuff and all that. But today, at that time, I was going to read Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol.
Ooh, one of my personal favorites.
Holiday spirit.
Every single year, I got to at least read or listen to the audiobook for that. That's like become a tradition.
And it is. It's a lot shorter than the movie. In a sense, it's a very short story, actually. So it was going to be something that just like, to get me in that holiday spirit. No pun intended. And so
kind of a weird one to get into the holiday spirit, but I'm with you on it. It's my all-time favorite Christmas story, but it's
exactly
it's
where I'm going. You know where I'm going with this. So I get this strange sound in my right ear only, and the sound sounds crystalline and coated. It's not like your traditional ear ringing like I get from rock concerts and stuff like that. This sounded different, and it was really intense and annoying. And I was, thinking, okay, what is that noise? And it just came to me, and that's all I can say. Sometimes it's just inspiration. In my pocket, I was carrying an old school track phone, an Alcatel 205A, G. It's a old school track phone, and it's just it had very few features. You didn't surf the internet or anything like that. You were able to make calls, text message, use the calculator. And it also had, interestingly, a digital voice recorder. So I was thinking, okay, I got this phone so my wife could stay in touch with me wherever I was, and I understand that because I'm very old school. I don't really get into modern technology stuff, and, I don't carry a smartphone and all that stuff. And so anyway, yeah, I'm just like, okay, this old phone has this digital voice recorder. I wonder if I could record this really annoying noise, this crystalline coated noise. And so I push record. It was really easy to do with these old school phones. And then upon playback, when the strange noise stopped, I thought, wow, I'm going to play this clip. Maybe I'll hear this noise and figure out what was causing it. Upon playback, I didn't hear any kind of crystalline noise. I heard a whisper, and the whisper said, "Mr. Arnold." And I was like, okay, that's unusual. I certainly thought, that was just like, this is a strange situation where I wonder if somebody was broadcasting something or some kind of signal got in there. So I left the library perplexed because I couldn't figure out what that was. And, I was like, And we still had a couple days before break started for the holiday break. So when I went back, I was like, I wonder if lightning's going to strike again. I wonder if I can get this to happen again because it was so strange. And sure enough, during my lunch break, this crystalline sound occurs. And I ask a question this time. This thought comes to me, and it's like, is there anybody there? All right. And palm playback, before my question, there's a voice, and the voice directly answers my question and says, yes, people. Okay, now I'm upset. I'm concerned, to say the least, because suddenly I'm interacting. This isn't just some kind of fluke, but there seems to be some intent or some intention to it. And so I went home and I started, just told my wife, and I was like, hey, something strange happened. And I told her all about it. And then I made an appointment to see the doctor because I started thinking, well, maybe this is the onset of some kind of dementia or something. And, I was feeling fine and healthy, but suddenly, here I have this invisible voice. And I kept thinking, I was like, when it happened the second time, I was looking around thinking, okay, is somebody spoofing me? Is somebody playing a game here? And like I said, there was no one in the library except on the lowest floor. You had the librarian, and she was, she was rather old, and she really didn't do anything with technology. So I didn't understand. And then, the holiday break came, and during the holiday break, I would share these clips with some of my family members, and they were, concerned too. And they're like, well, what does this mean? I said, I have no idea what it means, but then I got to see the doctor. And when I got to see the doctor, he, I said, well, I don't understand what's going on. I feel healthy, but, there's certainly a concern. Is this the onset of some kind of dementia or schizophrenia? I mean, all these things. Well, he said, okay, we're going to have to label this a certain way for the insurance company to pay for it. And we're going to label it audio hallucinations. So I was able to then get comprehensive blood work, which would be like looking for everything, including, Lyme disease. In this area, Lyme disease is a concern because of the number of deer ticks that carry it. So Lyme disease in its advanced stages can go and cause dementia, can cause hallucinations. But also he wanted to get, beyond the full spectrum blood work. He wanted to get the high contrast MRIs, everything, where they inject you with stuff, basically a dye that shows everything, all your brain and circulation and stuff. And so, I was glad that this was going to be something we could do because I wanted to get to the bottom of the mystery. And everything in my thinking and in my world, I'm healthy. There's no problem here. So I wanted to leave no stone unturned because I like to be a person in academia and stuff. Obviously, you want to deal with data, and I want the facts. I want the information, and you're not going to, take that information, that data, and make an assessment. The doctor, of course, will do the same thing. Well, test after test, there was no reason, no psychological reason. I had those tests, no organic reasons, no blood issues, no brain issues. Now, believe me, this was the first of many MRIs that I would get. All right, because other people would also pay for when my outrageous story started to break. Some people wanted to sponsor me going to Johns Hopkins and places to get better, even better MRIs. And the big picture is, I went back to college and I started interacting with these beings, these ethereal entities, on a daily basis. The thing is, it is so absolutely. It's such a mind trip because it's like your whole paradigm gets rocked, capsized. And what I always believed in God. Don't get me wrong. I was raised a Christian, Christian household. And there was an abstract, connection to the divine, well, Jesus is real because I was raised that way. I went to church, Sunday school and stuff. But this was different. This was like, it was in my face. It was intimate. Suddenly I was interacting during lunch breaks, and I had to keep it a secret, obviously, from staff and faculty for a while, certainly from the students. But I started to have incredible Class A EVPs, EVP, electronic voice phenomena, the clips, the recordings, the messages were crystal clear. And most of the times, I would say 8 to 9 times out of 10, if I wanted to ask a question when these episodes were happening where it had this crystalline coded ear ringing, upon playback of the recording, you could hear the direct response to my question before I ask it, all right, which is indicative of some kind of telepath, telepathic connection, or telepathy, or time as we understand it doesn't, is incorrect.
Just out of curiosity, not to cut you off, but were you hearing this specifically only in this library, or was this a phenomenon that was following you around like everywhere you were going?
Initially, I felt, and I asked the question, I said, am I tethered to this location and only this time to have these interactions? My interactions got to be to the point where they were so personal, where we're talking about names of people, names of pets, my pets, my family members, my people I don't even know started asking me questions, and then including researchers across the country and stuff. And you can go to my website, believe me, it's got everything, links to everything, including prestigious scientists of Dr. Gary Nolan, Stanford University luminary, at the forefront of UAP disclosure. And all this stuff is there. It's for public consumption. Believe me, this story is just going to get more outrageous. I know you've previewed some of it, and you know what I'm going to go into. Not only am I getting interactions from beings who claim to be alien, who claim to be otherworldly, but who also apparently they enjoy playing games. Like they call it the game. It's called remote viewing. All right. Where I have a researcher on the West Coast, let's say in Washington State, and he has a purple can sitting on a park bench. All right. During my lunch break, he says, okay, as soon as you get this clip, I want the response. You don't interpret it. You send the raw clip to me, and so you have like, okay, what's in this? I would tell the entities what's in this this purple can, coffee can on a park bench. So. And they'd say a battery, loud and clear, Class A EVP, but I'm not to tell anybody, I'm not to interpret, I just send it, all right? Then this got the word of mouth by the other researchers. They're like, hey, this guy's onto something. And so we came up with a deal where I needed some of my clips comprehensively analyzed, because I had a feeling, and that's some of this is just about feelings, that there's more than just the EVP there. Remember, the EVP portion is still audible, but I always believed there was a subliminal component to an EVP clip. Sure enough, as these investigators started using bleeding edge AI software to dissect phoneme by phoneme these clips, these anomalies inside, they were able to peel back the layers and start to find other conversations. Now, one of the clips I have, again, everything's posted from the Selim clip, where I love pigeons, right? And I've imported pigeons from all over the world, from Africa, African olive pigeons, rainbow pigeons that are naturally tie-dye colored. You can look this stuff up on the internet. I mean, it has them on my finger. It's just, they're beautiful birds. And I had some extra white homing pigeons too. That they're not worth a lot. The others are worth thousands. Homing pigeons, unless they're really racing homers, they're not worth a lot. Well, I had some extra regular white pigeons. So I was like, I got the crystal and ear ringing at home. Now I had asked the entities, going back to your original question, am I tethered here at the library? They said no. All right. All I had to do was be open-minded and say, okay, let's talk somewhere else. And believe me, I've had these interactions everywhere, in the crowded shopping mall, in a cave, everywhere. I mean, at home, while I'm sleeping. They interrupt me all the time. Once they think that, your buddies, they really get tuned into what your life is about. Now, they're watching all of us, they say. And it seems like they're making reports. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here. Because I mean, I've asked him, well, what exactly? Why are you bothering me? I mean, you know, I'm no one special. You know, I think they say you're our, and they like to play games. They say, we're sorry. You can listen to this clip too online. You're our favorite. And I'm like, okay, that's very manipulative. You know, they like to play games. I can't say it enough. When so it's like, okay, so it's not a good thing to be your favorite because you're sorry about it. What does that mean? And there's laughter. As some people say, well, you're interacting with demons. You know, I mean, these are just okay. They've never asked me to do anything bad. They're not trying to steal my soul. And I only give them a small slice of my life. And what I was going to get to as well is more recently, as we really started to explore these clips, we found out, and that I've been told by some researchers, please don't talk about this because this isn't supposed to be for public consumption. If there's anything that gets me riled up is somebody trying to censor me, even if it's a researcher or people who, you know, maybe have the best intention. Some of my EVP clips you can take, and it came to me, and I don't know how to describe it. It just came, this idea. If I take this EVP clip, a static EVP clip, and I play it, if you have a Google or Gmail, you can also have Google Voice. So you can call. They have a phone number you get with Google Voice in Gmail. It's free. And you can call your Google Voice number and leave a message, and it transcribes your message. A hunch, call it what you will, inspiration. I mean, it's all about, like, if you're a poet or anything that you talk about a muse, well, wherever this inspiration came, internally or externally, the idea came to me that these quote unquote static EVP clips are not that at all. So I was able to take a static EVP clip, and I'm able to call this Google phone number of mine and play the EVP clip and then ask questions. And you open up a new conversation through that EVP clip through Google transcription service in Google Voice. And it is absolutely, it is like, okay, so these aren't, when I record something, there's something about the nature of an EVP clip. The recording is it triggers. It's dynamic. You can actually use it to revisit and start new conversations.
Hold on tight, guys. We'll be right back after this brief commercial break. But in the meantime, don't forget to follow Inquiries of Our Reality on Instagram and Facebook. And don't forget to check out Open Minds Media on YouTube and TikTok. I'd love to hear from you guys, so feel free to leave a comment or spark up a conversation. I love getting to know you guys. And now back to the show. Is this what you were talking about with the layers? That it's not just one straight EVP where it's just one line. It's layers where you can basically, as you're explaining, I just want to make sure I'm understanding. Absolutely. You're taking a clip that you already had recorded, replaying it through Google, asking new questions, and getting different responses with that same audio clip.
Exactly.
That is a fascinating phenomenon. I've never heard of this type of phenomenon happening before.
Yeah, and I don't, again, where does inspiration come? So this came to me, and then I started talking to some people. One person's from Skinwalker Ranch. I won't say his name. And he said, keep that to yourself. You could cause trouble with that. And I said, listen, why is it that we always have to drip, drip, drip out the truth? I said, why is it that we can't just be open? And I said, one of my best friends told me why he thinks they came to me or they interact with me. He said, because you're open to it. You don't close your mind. And actually, I got the same kind of thing from Dr. Gary Nolan when we had our conversation, that if you have an open mind to it, you'll see things that most people, they become numb to their senses. They don't see the magic. They don't see the possibility. They don't recognize the miracles that are happening every moment around us. And if you're open to it, you'll start to see the world differently. And in a way, it's self-fulfilling. So once you start to become a person who can see the patterns that shouldn't be there, or who can recognize the glitch in the matrix, if we want to call it that, you'll be able to see and hear things and perhaps do things that other people can't. So where this came from, again, it's just inspiration. Maybe they whispered it and I didn't hear it. I've actually had people involved in, and this is again, I can give all the references and stuff. I'm not going to name drop, but I'm saying people who are investigating Havana syndrome. All right. They've investigated my clips. Why? Because there's something going on here that extends beyond just simple waves being used to perhaps harass somebody, or I mean, there's a whole.
It's almost like an auditory portal, like a weird way of explaining it. It's not like it's like the standard idea of a portal. That's this thing that you can walk into. It's rather like this frequency or sound is playing, and in turn, it's causing a portal, which makes it so that it's. Like you said, like you can ask it different questions and it gives different responses. Like it's not like a straight flat audio clip. Like there's something about the specific frequency that it's able to be manipulated in real time.
It's creepy but cool, and that's so. What I've been trying to do is a grassroots up approach. All right, get it out to now for your audience. I'm going to go to the sensational aspect, because if this isn't sensational enough, I could go on and on about things I've seen and heard, and the political intrigue, including our current president, and all these things. People have said, please don't talk about certain things. I think people need to know, number one, the world is not as we've been told. All right, we've been led to believe a history that's not true, that time as we understand it is nonsensical. To the beings that I interact with, I've asked, they said to them it is happening all at once. They see my birth, they see everything in that moment. And what we can only perceive things as in like a linear fashion, but to them it's not that way. That's how they're able, because I was like, well, are you reading my mind? I mean, how are you able to answer these questions? That pigeon clip that I was talking about, I asked, should I sell my white pigeons, right? Before I ask the question, upon playback, you hear an emphatic, I'm talking about a class A plus EVP. Sell them. It was like, wow. But they are so involved in every little aspect of this. So when I had that clip, which I, again, being a pigeon aficionado, I say that fast, I wanted to get this clip comprehensively analyzed. So I sought out the people who were working with Havana syndrome as well. They peeled away the layers of that clip that's under 6 seconds long. They found a whole subliminal conversation where you have different genders. If you give it sounds like a gender, a female saying, how much do you think he'll get? What kind of hummingbird? They were in the split second under the EVP, which is audible. There's a subliminal component, a layer where other conversations are going on about my pigeons. I was thunderstruck, and I was like, okay, what happens is once you start to open yourself to the reality, there's still magic in the world. All right, things we don't understand, but they can be considered magic because we don't understand. I'm like, modern tech, if you went back in time and caveman, you showed him a cell phone, seeing other people move around on this little screen would be magic to that caveman. I get it. But whatever's going on here seems to be so much more than just the word magic is like it's inadequate, and there's a quality about this is totally ineffable, and it's like I don't understand why me. I'm not special. I mean, and they play games like I said. If they want to talk about it, I said I have a clip where what was the name of our pet rabbit who passed, family pet. All right, so upon playback, all right, I'm interacting when they hear that noise. That's all I hear. I don't hear voices. I hear a strange crystalline noise, but I'm able to record through my old school track phone the conversation. And upon playback, like I said, it's not the noise. It's actually whispers. You amplify the whispers, you hear what they're saying. So they said the word loud and clear, Cuddles, which is correct. All right. They knew the name of our dead rabbit. They knew the name of, our other pets that had died. My brother's best friend who has a spirit animal, they knew that name. And I didn't even know this guy. And I'm like, what the heck? So they're playing games of remote viewing, and they say they're alien, otherworldly. And now we get to like I said, I was building up to the sensational part. So I start to say, well, obviously this relationship, I mean, what do you want from me? All right. And they, much like Dr. Seuss's Horton Hears a Who, the little who creatures that live on the little clover, and Horton's the big elephant, and he can hear them because he's got the big ears, and he's trying to convince the other jungle animals that these who's exist on this little piece of clover. They're a little piece of dust on clover. They're actually really, really small. Same thing. These beings want to be recognized as as existing, and that they're interacting with it. They've been here a long time. So I got an EVP, which told me the first time to play a certain lottery number. All right. Pennsylvania Pick 4 evening lottery number. And okay, I thought, well, yeah. So I put some chump change on it. And I paid, each ticket's 50 cents. All right. And I played it straight. All right. So 4 digits straight. And you can pick from 0 to 9. So you have a 1 in 10,000 chance, or 0.01% chance of randomly just getting that right. All right. Much less than a chance of dying from COVID or something. Okay. Well, guess what? I got it right. And so now I'm sitting here. I'm like, okay, the number is 3001. People can cross-reference. They go back and see back in March when I won 2022, and they can see that, okay, Mr. Arnold is obviously lucky, which is great, and I had certain scientists, and they said, well, we need repeatability. And I said, I understand that. I sure would like to repeat this too, because why not win free money? So sure enough, I'm playing with my rainbow pigeon, which I call Sherbert. And
fitting name.
Yeah, he's cute. And the video's out there. And so we're giving Sherbert this paparazzi treatment, like video and pictures and stuff out in the backyard. Upon playback of the video, there's an EVP, actually 2 of them, 2 distinct EVPs. One sounds like a child's voice, and it's telling me the number to play. And then the other sounds synthetic, and I don't know how to describe it, except it sounds artificial. The voice sounds AI in a way. This clip is also up. It's on my web channel, YouTube channel. Anybody can analyze it. And that is one of the clips that you can use to open new conversations. All right. This is something I'm not supposed to talk about, but I am, not because I'm a rebel, but because I really think in the end, people need to know the truth. All right.
I think it's one of those things with researchers, just to throw this in there, that they're afraid of the information because they don't want it to get out, because they want to experiment with it first, which, I mean, it's kind of the same aspect with, like, people have a good Sasquatch spot, like they don't want other people to get to it. But on the flip side, like you mentioned, it's not really doing anything good for the phenomenon as far as, like, other people being able to experiment with it. But my one counter argument would be the whole idea of, like, I guess if you don't know what you're messing with, maybe it's a good thing if only certain people are messing with it.
And that's true too. And I try to see things from every angle, and make an assessment. I think people need to know that EVP clips, especially some in particular, are dynamic, and that's the word I use, dynamic, and that's what I've told some of the researchers and my feeling is that that's why I'm able to carry on new conversations. So anyway, this number, this EVP clip with the Sherbert pigeon, I went and I played that number straight. Not only did I started saying I need more evidence, so I time-stamped the day I'm going to win. All right, I time-stamped everything, all this stuff, because I wanted to have that edge that, okay, is this a fluke? That first time could be considered that. Is a second win, the odds are the same, but knowing in advance, time-stamping things, am I going to win again? Now, I had the feeling, I don't know how to describe it, I've used that word a few times here, hunch, feeling, strong feeling. Yes. So that night I played, all right, and I played this time $5.50, all right, straight. Well, if you play it straight, all right, 10,000 to 1 odds, which is 0.01% again, it's always the same, but I played all the same number, but straight. You can do that, all right? So this time I win $27,500. Again, free. I mean, you obviously pay taxes on it, but I'm saying I didn't earn it. Right? I didn't do anything. I didn't raise my hand and say, please. Yeah, it's nice once you start having more and more data to work with. So it's just people were like, this isn't true, is it? So now I'm on radio stations, all right, and I'm talking about it, and people are like, they're like, some people get scared. Some people do not want you to rock their boat. They don't want to have their little dinghy capsized by the truth. The truth is that it's something which some people would consider impossible or close to magic is going on. And that when maybe if you're a materialist and everything and you just don't believe there's anything more, maybe because you're afraid that if there is, that maybe you'll be found lacking or wanting, or you should have spent your life differently rather than maybe stepping on your fellow human beings or whatever. Maybe then there's accountability. I don't know. I'm not going to get into that aspect of it, because I think that there is karma in the world. People who do bad things, it eventually comes back to get them, justice, so to speak. And I think because I'm open to it and stuff. So it starts to, some people start to really see things differently. Like, okay, you're that guy who is on now the lottery terminals all around Pennsylvania. Every kiosk in Pennsylvania has my picture on it. Now, when I went to cash, I went in person to cash the second winning with pick 4 and telling them my story. I was taken aside and said, we will do everything, but we will confirm your wins, but we cannot possibly convey your story to the people, because some people are going to be upset by this, and they're going to think, number one, it perhaps rocks their narrative, their paradigm gets smashed, and they're like, oh my God, I don't want to go to work today because there's alien beings watching us and making reports to whoever, or they're going to say from the other end of it, like the lottery said, well, some people consider that an unfair advantage, that you have friends in special places, contacts, unique contacts, who give you information in advance so that you can make a profit from our, lottery. They don't consider that right now because I haven't won enough times or enough money to be considered a problem. Although the governor of Pennsylvania, all these people know about me, believe me. But how I was told is, we consider what you've done and what you're doing the same as going to see a psychic. We can't tell you not to go see a psychic. If you happen to be a winner from those numbers, lucky you. But the bigger picture is, I full well know that if I can convincingly demonstrate with the data, with all these clips, something absolutely fantastical that rocks our paradigm. That's the winning lottery ticket. If I want my place in history, it's not winning Powerball. Sure would be nice. I mean, and I actually have a clip, and this is going to upset some people. I have a clip, and it was recorded, and it says, go to the lottery. There's a space, and it says Powerball. The ball part, the very last part, is not complete because I stopped recording. I got a microsecond too early. However, I've had that clip analyzed. Now, believe me, I'm not stupid. I've had it broken down into components. That's not a public clip for a reason. I've had it broken down into components and shopped out to different researchers. So nobody had the complete picture, because if there's winning numbers encoded in that EVP clip, the winning Powerball numbers, I want to be the one to bring it, to the globe. I want to go down and
make the claim.
and it is one of those things. It's like, okay, what does this really mean? I mean, I haven't changed fundamentally as a person, right? And I am, I think, more spiritual, more passionate about things. It gives you more zest. It just know that, hey, we're not alone in the universe. That's what I'm going to say. I have another friend who says, don't say we're not alone. That's cliche anymore. Say there's more. I like that. He's got a good point. There's more than we've been told. There's more. And I can demonstrate, I can say, you can contact the lottery. You can see my picture on the Pennsylvania Lottery webpage. You can, when I was in all the kiosks in Pennsylvania, believe me, I was telling people and in the newspapers, and you know what? The local TV station, they said, we're not going to even touch this. They said, even if you won Powerball with this. We cannot scare people. People have a certain way. They like their sports. They like their feel-good stories. They'll endure taxes and politics and wars abroad. But you bring the hocus pocus into the mix, we're stepping back. And I said, that's why I can never break mainstream. The idea is, whether it be some people in the intelligence community have pre-decided there are certain subjects we could talk about, and there are certain things that are taboo we don't talk about. Even if I'm getting more and more evidence that it's true, I can substantiate and stand squarely on what I bring to the table isn't interpretation. It's that these beings, these interactions are real, and it's not a subjective thing. We're talking about objective AI software evaluated. You see, everybody would say, oh, this is pareidolia. All right. Pareidolia doesn't win you lottery winnings. It doesn't win jackpots. Pareidolia doesn't do all the things. I'm able to get data that I cannot possibly, as a human being, know. All right. I can't Google it. I mean, I can have answers for people in the intelligence community who want to know what's going on in the Middle East or something. I'm not going to discuss all that, but again, I will help them. Scratch your back, scratch mine, kind of thing. I'm interested in pigeons. I'm interested in the simple things in life, but I also believe in the magic. And whether these are angels or some of them are a little naughty sometimes. So some of them I would say more like a fallen angel.
Hold on tight, guys. We'll be right back after this brief commercial break. And now back to the show.
I went in one time when the earringing happened, and I wanted to be preposterous on purpose. So you are here to serve me, right? And all this BS on purpose. Why? I wanted to see what kind of response. When I listened to the recording, right away, before I say that, you had this being say, what the? They are totally put off by sometimes, how I play, because they play games with me. There's a sense of humor that is, at times, it's twisted. If I want to find out about, let's say, an animal, let's say a frog or something, the pet frog or whatever, you will have the entities, when they have the correct answer of the animal, they will sound like a character, a comical version of a frog. So the voice is affected. My wife, she heralds from what used to be East Germany. Her name is unusual in the States. All right. And her name is Ansha. All right. Which is like a German version. We even have Anna over here, but it's got a different sound to it. I have recordings of the being saying her name with the inflection, and you could have these researchers say, "Oh no, that at that split second that you asked the question of your wife's name, there was some kind of satellite signal that beamed down. It was just a random radio transmission." What it ends up happening, and I know you're familiar with Occam's razor, when you have to create all these variables to make something be seen as, well, this is how it's done. The more variables you have, the more unlikely it is. Usually the simplest solution is the more likely to be correct.
I was joking about this with ball lightning on the last episode, that it's more rare that you see ball lightning than it would be that you would actually see an orb out in the woods. So, I mean, at a certain point, the explanation becomes more ridiculous than the actual claim of the phenomenon that's happening.
That's it. And that's where the suspension of it, and I have dealt with some of the skeptics. Mick West, you're familiar with him?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's a debunker and everything. I think he's got good intentions. But, when it comes to some things, he just he won't go that extra step to say, I want to be serious and look at the data. I mean, he goes for the easy ones. He's always going for the low-hanging fruit on purpose. All right. And so I said, I will share this with you, Mick, and you can, evaluate this and everything. Oh, we'll get to it. It's not a priority. I said, so these alien beings, if you can, come my way and actually, take a look at this claim, if you can, show that there's something to it, I said, isn't that like disclosure in a way? I mean, maybe it's not a flying saucer. I've asked them. I've asked the beings, do they have a flying craft, a spaceship? Yes, I got an answer, a nice, clear answer. All right. The being says 8 of them. All right. So, okay. Now, are they pulling my leg? This is all possible too. I mean, I am an open-minded person to the point where I will even go so far as to say this could be one ethereal entity, consciousness, that likes to play games, that pretends to sound like it's a little boy or a female or Germanic like my wife, or it can sound like a frog and all these, just to get a rise, and can toy with all of us and me in particular and say, well, let's give him some free lottery money and let's let him win again and let's let him talk about, the clip swerve, the Powerball, and let's do this. Here I brought one of these phones. This is one of the track phones here, like the Alcatel or A205 G model, and it's very simple. And I've experienced all kinds of things. With all this, I've seen orbs. All right, and it's crazy. I was sitting there, and this is all crazy. So I have to start with, anybody listening to this with, if I had been listening to this 10 years ago, I would have thought that's a nut. This guy's insane. That's absurd. Again, you almost have to live through it to actually fully appreciate it. And when it comes to this, like we were sitting, I had this pocket knife from my father, God rest his soul. And I lost my mom recently too. No, I don't try. I have people trying to say, would you please contact this person? My son committed suicide. And I'd like to talk to him. I'd like to hear from him. I said, number one, these beings don't say they're dead people. They say they're aliens. And I said, so that right away is a different category. They don't say they're ghosts. I've given them options even. I've said, what are you, spirit? They say they're otherworldly. All right, they say they're alien. Now, do I take them at their word? Of course not. I mean, I'm not a very trusting person. I don't want to be gullible. I want to see what the data says, So going back to what I was saying, my father gave me this pocket knife, right? And it's a Winchester pocket knife, right? Well, this weird stuff started happening to me, and this pocket knife disappeared. And I was frantic. I was looking all over for this pocket knife, retracing my steps, even in the mall. The local mall, thousands of people, and it's just like 20 miles away, and the sentimental value. And I had all but given up. And I'm sitting in the living room watching TV with my wife, and suddenly the sound of a thunderclap, and there was no lightning bolt. There was the sound of thunder in the room, in the living room. And this materialized. This isn't a porch. That's what they call it. So for 2 weeks, this was gone. And it came back in dramatic fashion. I carry this around now as a charm, a talisman. It's still just a knife. I was going to show it to Gary Nolan when they had one of his comments. It's just like, I don't know if they'd analyze it or what. All this has been gifted to me, including, like I said, this whole experience. It's extraordinary, and I don't deserve it. And I'm not like sitting here and like beating myself. I'm not a flatulist, I'm a sinner and deserve. I'm just saying, maybe part of my reason for being here is to share that magic is still real in the world. It still exists. I have tangible proof, not just money in my pocket from winning the lottery more than once, with EVP messages, knowing in advance. And you know what? I already know the next number. They see what they do. They'll give you the number, but they won't give you the day until it's time. Then so I already have the number. And I was like, well, should I do a live stream so that people can tune in? Maybe have all the money go to charity. Because I want to be a noble person too, not just a jerk. You have someone like Elon Musk, and look at all that money, and he's wasting his life trying to make rules and regulations to control a lot of people. And I'm just like, I'm not about that. I don't charge a dime for any of my I have documentaries. Again, everything is on my Compendium website. It started out as a Medium article that I wrote. Medium, you're familiar with that, where you can write an article about whatever your passion is.
Yeah.
And I build on that because I'm so lazy. So for the last almost 5 years, it's 4.5 years, I built on that Medium article a website, which is my compendium launchpad site. It's got links to everything, interviews, podcasts. You'll soon be on it, and you'll be part of it. But the thing is, I try to look now because it's so long. It tells you, the Medium article at the top will say estimated time it's going to take to you to read it. Most people it's 2 to 3 minutes, maybe 5. Mine's like 20 some minutes long. It projects how long it takes to read because I have all the analyses. I have all the links, like I said, to interviews with scientists, all the EVPs that I have up, except for the Powerball one. All these are out there. And it's just a sampling because I have thousands of these that I've recorded and I haven't had them. You move on. So I have, some of them are ominous in the sense that I had one and it was in October a few years ago and I recorded it. I got the ear ringing in the library at the local HBCU and I got the ear ringing and I decided to say something kind of in the spirit of Halloween. I said, "Are you a devil?" Upon playback, before I say that, right, there's a voice that sounds satanic and it's deliberate. This is a manipulation, like I said. And it says constant hell. And it says it in an evil way. Like it's imprisoned in this hell. Then you hear my question, "Are you a devil?" Which is kind of, just say it. And I'm not like being a jerk about it. I'm not making fun if it happens to be a devil. Then afterwards, and this is unusual, you actually have an EVP follow my question. So before and after I ask my question, before it says constant hell, my question, "Are you a devil?" And then at the end of the clip, you have a wispy little sad voice saying, "I don't want to talk about it." So you have this continuum where you have what's supposed to be scary. And at the end, it's pitiable. It's like, I pity you. If you are locked in some kind of punishment, hell, what a sad reality. It's not sympathy. I don't have sympathy in the sense, but I'm just like, I think it was a game because it was in the context of Halloween. They played lots of games, and they've done other things. Like they've had me go. I had one clip, and then it tells me, "Get the blood work," and I'm like, "Okay, get the blood work." Well, so I took it to my doctor, my family doctor, and he's completely aware of this, and he hasn't put me away or anything. And he's like, "This is the first time I'm going to take advice and prescription from an invisible entity." Now he's a very spiritual man, and so we look at my blood work and stuff, and becoming pre-diabetic, all right, which is important because I don't want to be like my dad who went down and it became a comorbidity. So when he got cancer and stuff, his chances of making it became slim because of some of it was lifestyle beforehand. Like I said, God rest his soul, and I'm so happy this came back to me. And it came, and my wife can witness. I'll take all this stuff. I'll take a lie detector test any day of the week. And that's where, I believe that the data and not the interpretation of the data. I'm not going to tell you what these beings really are. Because sometimes they're tricksters, and say, well, that means that they're ornery, and does that mean they're evil? No, it's because something can be sometimes provocative in language, and say things that get a rise, like we're sorry, you're our favorite. I mean, I have a clip where I asked, this is one of those bookend clips. And so it came to me, I get the ear ringing, and it came to me to ask, "What do you want?" All right. Because it was one of those things where I was tired. I want to go to bed. That's what I want. Upon playback of the clip, at the beginning, it says clearly, "Nothing." And you hear me say, "What do you want?" And at the end of the clip, it says everything. Again, the same kind of contradiction where you have the beginning saying it doesn't want anything, me asking the question, and afterwards a contradiction, a refutation of the original. So instead of nothing, now it wants everything. Well, it's I have a sense of humor too. Make up your mind. I mean, you're not getting everything, and it just.
These guys remind me of like the DMT entities and a lot of like the interactions people have with DMT entities.
Right.
Like I know a lot people you're mentioning like the UFO phenomena. I know a lot of people kind of mention extraterrestrials with DMT entities, but just all that I'm interpreting is like this DMT entity concept from these things. And even on the flip side of that, like the whole idea of like interpretation on what we consider demons, what we consider angels. Like regularly talked about this on the show, the whole idea about all of these different religions, all these different things are just different viewpoints, I think, of like the same events in the same group. So even within that, like the whole idea of like good and bad and something either have to be on this side or that side is simply like a human construct. Like not everything works like that. There's a lot more gray area in reality than people realize. So, I mean, just to play devil's advocate here, it's kind of like the concept of like, you're talking about like what we're calling the demons. You have this one side of the occultists that view it as like, oh, these were the people that were trying to give us, or the things that were trying to give us knowledge, and it was God that was trying to keep this knowledge from us. So that's like one viewpoint of it. Then on the flip side of it, this was knowledge humans weren't supposed to have yet, because I don't think any knowledge is intended to not have. It's just a matter of you're supposed to get it at a certain point. And that's the viewpoint. But like I said, even within that, it's like, it seems like we're kind of going back on the same circles here about talking about these same groups. And it's just a matter of viewpoint on what you're interacting with and what you're dealing with. But yeah, it's so hard to place. I could go in so many different directions with this, but I know that there's listeners out here who are like, oh, he's talking to demons. And then I know there's other listeners out here who are like, oh, he's talking to extraterrestrials. And like I said, I'm sitting over here on the fence saying these sound just like DMT entities, whatever these things happen to be.
Yeah. Look, I said, I'm open to it. And I'm open to, if something's negative, and I've had some entities that are vulgar and they're saying the F word and all that. And I'm like, and they even said some racist things. Now, believe me, when you work at a HBCU, the last thing you want is to have ghosts or something and saying things that are racist. So, that was one of the things I'm like, oh my gosh. So, but you have to look at the continuum. All right. If something's negative, I don't want to deal with it, and I'll cut it off and say, I don't have to. They want my attention. They need the attention. They want me to do these podcasts. They don't compel me. They don't force me. They're not like, paying me off or anything. I really believe, just like people, you have good and bad. All right. And call it that. And even those words are loaded. I mean, the origin of the word good is God. There's and you go something in the word for apple, that's French, malheur. I mean, it's bad. I mean, it's a word game. I believe that just like people, there are some forces that, repel or attract like magnets and stuff. And I feel a sense, I'm the kind of person, I like joy in my life, but I understand the same thing that sometimes you have to have sadness to appreciate joy. There's a whole gray area. All right. So do I say that I'm interacting with naughty demons? No. Do I interact sometimes with negativity? Yeah. And then I cut it off and I said, I'm not talking to you. And guess what? After I've done that, I've had so many, and I have all these clips I can share. Can you imagine, number one, to anyone's ego, where you have whatever they are apologizing to you. We're sorry. We didn't mean to offend. Okay. I'm nobody to start with. So is this part of the game, the play, you're playing me, you're toying with me, or is this genuine? Or is this, they're trying to modulate how to interact with me? Because I do believe they have a quirky sense of humor, and I have a sense of humor, not as quirky as that, but I think that humor can be like a common denominator. We can build a bridge with it. So
I mean, even if these things are telepathic too, I mean, that might also kind of take out the filter where it's not that they're intending to necessarily say rude or whatever things. It's just a matter of if they're telepathic, the first thought, the first idea is what gets projected. And it's like, regardless if it's a good or a bad response to it, like that's the response that you're getting because there's no filter in between of the mouth actually stopping certain things from being said. Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back with that deep conversation you crave. But just a quick reminder, if you'd like to snag some gear for this show, Bizarre Encounters, or one of your favorite cryptids or topics, hop on over to the Open Minds Media merch store for a wide range of designs with new drops regularly. And t-shirts now for the low price of just $15.68 plus shipping. And now let's get back into it.
I mean, I used to look at spiders, and I'm going to use this as a weird analogy, and then I'm going to expand on it. All right, so spiders to me are pretty ugly, right? I mean, they're so unlike me, and so there's a judgment here. And when I was a little boy, 4 years old, it was a thunderstorm, and the grass was wet, and I was playing out in my backyard. I saw this pretty orange spider. I still remember the trauma. I went over, wanted to poke it and pick it up. It bit me. Of course. And I cried. My dad then grabbed the spider by, the tweezers way and stuck it in a thing of alcohol. So it would float around. This orange spider was dead. All right. So this loathing of spiders continued into adulthood. And I remember seeing these wolf spiders, and they're, around here, they're as close as you can get to a tarantula. I mean, they're large spiders. They're not tarantulas, but they carry their babies on their backs. So you can, that they protect their babies by carrying them around when they're, well, I wouldn't care. It's a spider. And, it's like, well, the only good spider is a dead spider. So, and I remember I was sitting there one day, and this large wolf spider came over. It didn't have any babies. And I stomped my foot, and the thing leapt up off the floor at least 6 inches. And I recognized that it was afraid, that whatever my prejudices that I come at this creature with were wrong. So I needed to think before I act, because we act sometimes from a visceral, impulsively, like, oh, well, that's ugly, and therefore it deserves ridicule, scorn, destruction, whatever. So I made peace with, I can be wrong about things and change my ways. Now, we have spiders in the house sometimes, and they will occasionally crawl on you, and I don't go out of my way to hurt anything like that anymore. If I wake up and a spider's on my arm, which has happened a few times, I'll just push him off. I won't try to splat him or anything. Now, a mosquito or a tick, well, I'm sorry, they still get theirs because they will go out of their way to basically get something from you, to bite you, and blood or whatever. So they deserve what they get, and that's their lot in life. But a spider, I realize spiders don't try to hunt you down. A tick will. If you're in the room or something, a mosquito will fly over, and it will get the blood that it needs. It'll try its best. It will, perhaps die in the process. The same thing with tick will sneak up, and I've had ticks when I used to go in the farmland, in the fields and stuff as a child. I'd have ticks every night. My mom had to pick the ticks off me because I'd be out in the field. I'm lucky I didn't get, disease back then. But bring that to the last couple years. I awoke one night and I saw a shadow of a very large spider, a shadow the size of a basketball. And it was two-dimensional because it's a shadow, and it was moving. And I had to revisit, not because I was fully awake. I had to revisit, number one, is this like some night terror or anything? But it's happened more than once. I had to come to the conclusion, okay, number one, you do not be prejudiced because something doesn't look like you, right? That if this is a representation of what they perhaps are, or maybe it's a projection, don't be so judgmental, right? And it's the same thing. If something seems like it's a negative, and if it's too negative, yeah, I'll walk away. I'll cut off the communication. But because something maybe is a little offensive or a little prickly, it would be wrong for me to, be an all or nothing person when that's not what I believe. So that's why I don't see things as entirely good or evil. All right. And I think there's that whole continuum that I was using, that the bookend, the clips where the one part says something that's interesting. Oh, you want to be special, don't you? All right. That you're our favorite. That sounds wonderful. But then that's prefaced with, we're sorry. Well, that doesn't sound wonderful. That sounds sadistic. So I have to have a sense of humor and at the same time approach it. Is this a way of them trying to, and I say them, and again, I don't know if it's not one entity or one little alien, or I don't know. I've asked, would you please manifest and we can just have a conversation? Nope, they're not going to do that. Would you give me the winning lottery number because I want it tonight? Nope, they're not going to just they're not at my beck and command, which is probably best because, if anyone has that kind of access to power, then that will probably corrupt them. I can still sit on the sidelines and I can still say, I've had an extraordinary life. If I died today in good conscience, I didn't become some kind of satanic monster because of my interactions. I didn't, torture animals. I was always trying to be curious. They say curiosity kills the cat. Always trying to be curious about the bigger picture, knowing full well that, we're infinite in a great sense, but right now our perspective is finite. I want someday to have that summit view that I believe God. I mean, I have such a romantic notion of God, and I've been raised Christian and stuff, and I think that's the best expression for me culturally. So that's why I believe. But I really believe deep down inside, God is this creative. We're ideas in God's mind. We're part of that expression. So in a way, God lives out maybe different roles. This sounds, out there, but it's just like my hunch again.
It's almost like the Force concept that it kind of exists a little bit everywhere.
Ideas in God's mind. God is and some ideas eventually you change your mind and say, I don't like that. I'm not going to think those anymore. And if you can, change your mind, then maybe God could say, discard it. Well, I don't want to think about Gary anymore. But it really has to go back to, I'm not God. I have clips where the beings, and again, it's deliberately to poke me, to provoke me. I have one who's the being says, I'm God. Okay. And I'm like, it's a wispy sound and wimpy. I said, wow. I said, I always thought God would sound a little bit more macho, more oomph. And this sounds, like, a pushover. So I know deep down inside that's not God, but I play along. And I say, okay, well, so if you're this way, and then I talk about, and then it sounds like I'm talking to myself. I'm not. I'm just, because I have the recordings where they're interacting. And so I talk about my faith in Jesus, right? And how I was raised. At the beginning of the clip, you have this being clear as day. We're not talking about anybody could hear something else. The being says, Jesus, like, who is that? All right. Like, they've never heard about this and they want to learn more. They want to hear more. So what does it all mean?
Is that playing dumb, or is it just a matter of like, they honestly don't know? Because you're talking about the demon thing. I'm almost kind of curious if you ask in a different way. Like, I don't know if you've ever asked them directly, like, are you Nephilim? Are you fallen angels? Like,
yeah, I have asked them, and they sometimes will I have one entity who claims that I'm its daddy. Okay, now it's going to sound crazy. It says daddy, and I'm like, I'm not your father, but daddy. And I'm like, I don't know why you want to do this. I said, I'm not your dad. And they're like, daddy, daddy cuddles. All right, so now they combine daddy, with that irritant, with our pet rabbit that died. And I'm like, are you really trying to get my attention by just playing this goofy game where you're going to throw anything out to get a rise? And I'm like, I said, I believe that you can be useful because you seem to know things I don't. And I believe that I need to be suspicious of your real motives, because you can be tricksters. But you've also been there when I have been, down and lost my my parents and the sadness, and you have been there to console. So you're not evil through and through. Would just want to kick you when you're down. So I have to take it in its totality. There is a spectrum, right? There is. I don't even know how to put it. It's ineffable. There's a quality about them that is truly alien, not like us, a non-human intelligence. And yet at the same time, there are human foibles, or at least they project it to make maybe a connection. They try out different things. The clip where I have the being, and it says, and it's one of the clips again, it's public, and I have that analyzed. It's a clip where the being says it's alien. I know exactly where I was. It was May 25th, 2020. I was outside under a huge sycamore tree next to the tennis courts. My kids are playing tennis. The ear ringing comes, and I asked them, and the answer loud and clear is that they're alien. I decided, some of the other researchers were interested. I said, well, let's evaluate this clip. Let's analyze it. There's subliminal messages too, of course. And it's like what couldn't be heard is whatever it is at that moment chose, yeah, I'm an alien. Before it did the EVP alien, and this is all split second. We're talking about just a few second clip. All my clips are under 10 seconds. That you have a being masquerading as an alien, or wanting to convince me that it's alien. In a different clip, it says it's otherworldly. And I'm like, well, does alien mean from another world, another realm, another dimension? So you start to really, are these interdimensionals? Are these the fallen or Nephilim? Are they?
Could go by many different titles. So there's not one that's specifically correct, because they've just always been here, always been around, and have gone by many different names.
Right. And jinn. The whole concept of jinn. That's a little. It's more Middle Eastern as well. And that's where our word genie comes from. They can be that whole somewhat. They can be ornery, much too human in some regards. See, this is where we have idealized ideas of our celestial brothers and sisters coming to save us. What I'm interacting with is not that, not by any stretch. They're all too like us to say that they're here to save us. They can help us. They can console us. But I don't know. Again, some of the researchers have said, well, what stops them from influencing people in real power, let's say our leaders, to do bad things? They whisper in there that the leaders don't even know that they're under control or under a spell, or they don't hear the subliminal component. And, are we all part of another faction of researchers believe this is what I'm interacting with is we're part of a loosh farm. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Where there are these psychic vampires, invisible, that feed off of our emotions, our stress and our joy, but really they enjoy the food they get from us suffering and stuff. My life hasn't been one of where I'd say I've suffered much. So I'm not sure if they're hungry for that. They don't get much from me.
I think it still definitely gets into the energy being facet of this, though, because one thing I was going to bring up at some point during the show, this idea that I've been kind of diving into lately that was inspired by some little hints that have been dropped throughout Star Trek, and everybody kind of knows the whole weird conspiracies of Star Trek, where it seems like there's some weird privy information there. But they talk about this whole idea about these civilizations that advance past being a physical form, and they start becoming these like energy bodies. And once they become energy bodies, they're able to like manipulate reality. But the only thing that they don't have, again, is getting into this almost like demonic idea, is like they don't have like a physical vessel. So there's been episodes of Star Trek where they'll like go into somebody's physical vessel and they're like, wow, like the sensations, like this is fantastic. I love everything about it, but I've never felt more empty or alone because I feel disconnected from all the other energy source. And it's this idea that seems to be reoccurring with a lot of these episodes on the show, talking about these things that are from here, but they're not from here. And they seem like they're privy to our information, but they're not quite us. So I don't know. I've been on this trail about, is it possible that these ancient civilizations that we've talked about, or even something that predates even farther back than that, could there be these energy forms that have evolved past being a physical vessel that are existing among us? And even within that, another suggestion that I know a lot of people hate hearing this when you talk about the phenomenon, but is all the phenomenon the same thing? And it's just a matter of these things are energy forms and they can manipulate the physical so they can appear as whatever they want to appear as. And we're not dealing with hundreds of different types of beings, but rather one thing that just kind of will say, whatever you want to call me, sure, I'm going to be that.
Yeah, I actually, I think you're on to something there. Was it Passport to Patagonia? Is there's a story. Basically, these are all masks the phenomenon wears, whether it be angelic, alien. These are all projections, and it's almost like back in the, I guess, the late 1800s, or late 19th century, you had the airships, the mysterious airships, and a lot of people all over saw these craft that were just a little bit ahead technologically. They were envisioned and imagined by people, so they would see like these dirigibles and stuff floating. You know, I'm saying today, ever since the go back into the space program, and in the 40s, the anticipation of what craft could look like, and you can even say, well, maybe it is like this relationship we have with the phenomenon, that it is able to read our hopes and dreams and in a way satisfy at least an element of that by giving us something to,
or the most digestible context for people specifically, because 1800s people were more connected with the spiritual realm, so they could come as ancestors, as this, as that. But we're moving into this technological age where the easiest thing for people to digest is this whole concept of extraterrestrials or aliens. So they're falling into that facade and just saying that's what they are because they want to be known, but they gotta fall into whatever parameter the public view is at that point to make it so that people can relate to these things, rather than, if you were saying that you were an alien back in like the 1800s, like that's a whole other realm that nobody was quite ready to understand yet. But if you're saying that you're disembodied voices of their ancestors, then they're going to sit down and listen.
Exactly. And that's where, I've tried to, update's probably the wrong, I've tried to make sure that I'm open to the idea that, okay, whatever it is that I'm interacting with seems sentient, seems aware, but could very well be, because they played on some of my fears, of death. I said, another time I said, well, why are you talking to me again? Why are you talking to me? Why are you bothering me? And then the voice says, they will all be dead. And then I'm like, well, you're not telling me anything new. We all die. We're mortals. And so it's like they want you to think. They want you to think about things that maybe make you feel uncomfortable, all right? Our mortality, and then maybe our immortality and what we can be beyond that. And
hold that thought. Inquiries of Our Reality will be right back after this brief commercial break. And now let's dive back in.
So with the night I won the last lottery, where it was 1111, when the lottery picks the numbers, all right? They also pick if you pay an extra $1, they'll pick one extra number you can substitute in for one of the 4. All right. It costs you more. The odds, are still, you just have another chance to possibly win. The night that I won, not only was it the 4 ones all came up in a row, but that spare number was 1 as well. So we're talking about every one of those numbers was the number 1. And not only was it like confirmation that I was supposed to win, which again, you can be overconfident. I was confident that day, and I took the timestamps and everything. I told people about it, and then it comes true, and people are like, "How'd you know that?" And some of the scientists, is this real? I say, "Yeah, take a look at the timestamps, and take a look at all the conversation I had the day that I was knowing I was going to win that night." And then of course you have the people, "Why didn't you play more?" And then why would a person? And it's just like the idea here was never about getting rich. It's about, is this something that I can demonstrate? Like Gary Nolan said, we need this to be repeatable. They're willing to work with me to bring this out. And the idea is that there's a network here. Disclosure is coming. And disclosure is probably going to be a soft disclosure where there's an acknowledgement of a non-human intelligence. And that's nebulous enough that it doesn't scare people. Because some people are going to think, well, that's AI. That's like they've already got consciousness. And maybe some people would say that's true. Maybe years ago. Maybe when I'm interacting with these EVP messages through Google transcription, maybe it clicks on some that we don't understand, that Google's already moved to the point where their algorithms, their AI is able to transcribe something else that's AI inspired and open that conversation. I have to be open and honest. There is also an element where there is a nefarious group or a group of people who are way beyond anything we can imagine when it comes to weapons. Human thought, they've estimated it takes about a half second between what you're thinking and when you can express it. So there's a delay. Our perception of reality has got about a half second delay built into it, maybe up to a second, but really it's closer to half second. If somebody could figure a way to exploit that, they would have an advantage, a decisive advantage in being able to control people. Some of the Havana syndrome investigators, I'm not giving their names, they believe that they believe there are weapons with some of our adversaries, and not always adversaries from another nation. People want to think, oh, it's got to be the Russians, or it's got to be the Israelis, who we would be allies with them. It's got to be somebody of a certain level of technical expertise. Truth is, you can have people who have no allegiance to any country, who have the resources and the technology to advance something to control the masses. So, and they could weaponize something. So, and I'm like, well, did I stumble into something here at the local HBCU? Something that was being trial basis. What could we do? I don't believe, see, there are groups of people in this faction, and I say there's all these different factions, group of people who do not believe there's aliens, who do not believe in ultra-terrestrials or anything, who believe that the human species has had technological breakthroughs way, way, way before we really knew we had them. And I'm saying the masses. And the people who've had this advantage have had the way to cover it, compartmentalize it through, different groups, military, industrial complex and stuff. So they're now able to control people indirect and through these whispers. And they may throw me a bone every now and then and say, well, let's give people hope. Let's have Gary believe he's talking to aliens, when all along it's a weapon. I have to be open and say, even though it's beyond my understanding, it's not beyond my imagination that there are people who have an agenda who don't care about most of humanity, who, if they had the ability to, would do things like this to test their equipment, to, I mean.
Are you familiar with the voice of God by chance?
Yeah. I mean, that's real.
Yeah, I was going to say that was back in that was patented in like the 1920s, 1940s, something like that. And the whole idea was that they could project a frequency into somebody's head to make that person think that like God was talking to them themselves. But if that technology was patented then and it was this energy projection, imagine where it could potentially be now, because you have to transfer it into, it's not just simply getting projected into your head. Like, you're able to physically record this thing with another device. So there is another layer to this. So again, like, you're looking at another, at least another 60, 70 years on top of that technology. Like, imagine where that could potentially be. And there's a whole conspiracy around whether it actually fully existed or not. But I'm sure that if there's a patent for it, it existed to some extent. And, if they were saying that you can't use it because it was immoral, I mean, all you end up doing is just moving it to a black budget program. And then all of a sudden, nobody cares about morals anymore.
Yeah. And that's where, so I have to, I want your audience to understand. I want to be honest with myself, and I want to be honest with them, you. I can certainly conceive of technology that approaches magic so far beyond what we think we have, that they are doing this, and it's more likely this is true than aliens. It's more, the Occam's razor. It's more likely, in my opinion, that somebody's had a major breakthrough in consciousness and the way to manipulate and control consciousness. And again, to what degree? So I choose, just we talk about religion, we talk about faith, we talk about, how you live your life and stuff. I think my character is such that I choose joy for the most part. I choose, I sleep better at night thinking that hopefully what I'm interacting with is, on the whole, at least neutral. It'd be nice to have them be benevolent. But God forbid, if this is actually in the hands of a group of people, a select group of people who can at will, target you. Like there's the whole targeted individuals. There's a whole bunch of people who claim that they've been harassed, electronically harassed with frequencies and microwaves and stuff. Well, I do hope those people who are perhaps doing this, somehow, as I was mentioned, karma comes back and because nobody wants to be a puppet or controlled. And so I sleep better at night, thinking that maybe what I'm interacting with is something more than humanity, because human beings, we're capable, as we have seen the movies and stuff, we're capable of so much good, but also so much horror. And that kind of power in the hands of a select few would probably lead to abuse. And maybe that's one of the reasons I've been told about, don't say certain things, and
trying to keep the technology secret. Just want to test it.
Let's not talk about the open port, the dynamic clips, because what if it is it's man-made and it's frightening to conceive of some group of people who would experiment, and I would be one of the lab rats too, and maybe again, if you were talking about psyops and stuff, I could be guilty unawares, innocently, involuntarily guilty of promoting a belief in something when really there are bad people trying to control us. And you can go off the deep end on that too. Why do I believe otherwise? Well, despite Occam's razors we're talking about, and I already said that I believe that's probably the one that, I have the hardest time getting past when it comes to considering that this is human ingenuity and the diabolical quality is actually human. My rational mind wants to embrace that over spiritual or alien or otherworldly or interdimensional, because my rational mind, being a creature of flesh, doesn't really understand the spirit. I think it's wonderful when you think about a human brain, like a cosmos within, and all the neurons and stuff. And it's a somber thought all around, because if most of these things that we've discussed tonight, if any one of them's true, a lot of them could be a sad reality to embrace. The Loosh farm, where we're being, and creatures are using us for food, psychic energy, and or from the other end of the spectrum, the military or whoever trying to control us to some end, probably a nefarious end, and where they exploit us and subjugate us. That's not very uplifting. So I'm more and more, because I see the magic before this. I see the magic in life, in my experience with the beauty, the beauty of nature. And I'm talking about, when I talk about pigeons, we're talking about, I said the rainbow pigeons. You can look this up. Green-winged doves. They are the most beautiful. In sunlight, they're prettier, in my opinion, than the rainbow pigeons. They sparkle. They shine with a metallic green that, most people don't even know these exist. These are from the tropical areas of the world. But the truth of that is, you have to see them in certain light to appreciate their splendor, because the real color it's not because of pigmentation. Their feathers are like prisms, the little quills, so they are able to bend the light. So the green is what you see, this amazing metallic green in the correct sunlight. If you don't have the sunlight, they look kind of dull or maybe even black. So life in its essence, there is this ineffable quality and this magnificence. I feel that's what I'm embracing, that I believe there is so much that is exquisite, as much as there is suffering. And I'm not a person with rose-colored glasses, but I'm saying I firmly believe there's goodness in the world, and it's not man-made alone. Men and women can be part of that. But I think the inspiration, like we were talking earlier about muse, or where do you get these thoughts or this feeling, is something other. And it could be something other in a way that the idea in God's mind. So even though I consider God exists and through me is able to experience a uniqueness that maybe couldn't be experienced through this person or that. So that complexity, I don't speak for God, and I won't now. And I only see a small little fragment, I think, of what is real. We all our perception, that we are limited to our senses for the most part. We can only perceive the world in a limited spectrum, whether it be auditory, whether it be, as far as the visible or invisible light, we can't see, infrared and stuff. Like the world of butterflies or bees or hummingbirds, they're able to see all kinds of other frequencies, colors that we don't see unless we're taking mushrooms or something. It's psychedelics. So, yeah. So I really think our senses, the way we are, limit us from maybe being overwhelmed. Maybe that's it. That we need these filters to stay focused and sane. If all the filters were removed, we'd be totally experiencing maybe the divine element in a way that maybe would be too much at this point. You said knowledge at a certain point, at a certain to take. It's wrong. It's wrong to show a child pornography. I believe that. All right. However, when you're an older teenager or something, or a young adult, and if you, that's part of the human experience, biology and stuff. I don't want to contaminate the young mind with things prematurely. All right. So I had an ideal childhood. I never had to care about anything. And that sexuality, that was not part of, anything in my world until I got into adulthood, when that's part of that whole experience of being alive. I was lucky. I was fortunate. Like I said, I lived in an ideal world with my parents who never divorced, and two great siblings, and I was allowed to explore the natural world and to on my own, and to have pets. Some people never get a chance to even have goldfish, and to experience nature by living out. Fortunate enough, blessed to live in the suburbs and stuff, and to also be able to go into the cities and visit the cultural centers and the museums. I have nothing to complain about. Right now, I don't understand most of my experience, and especially something like that knife that suddenly appeared, and again, it wasn't alone, and it was dramatic. And why was it dramatic? Why did this reappearance of my lost knife from my father have to be so dramatic and undeniable? It's like, there it is. How did that just arrive? That's the kind of thing that I don't believe the military or a nefarious group is doing. I don't believe they're teleporting objects and then bringing them back. And I don't believe we have that kind of tech yet. Perhaps someday. So there's a certain magic that I still believe is beyond not our capability or our imagination. Someday we'll be able to do these things, but I don't really believe it makes any sense at all to think. And this is why I side more with this is something. It's not man-made. My rational mind, and I know it's the divided thing. It's so easy to say I'm all or nothing, but I'm not. There's a lot of gray area. So I give props to, I believe our tech is much further along, and I believe the potential's there for abuse, and it's all human inspired. But I also think there's such a majesty in life and stuff, and things that I do not believe we've accomplished as a species yet, and like teleportation and all that. And I think that tends to have me believe the other. So from a common sense, and when we talk about all this, it doesn't sound like common sense, but if someone had the technology to play these games with me for since 2017, it seems to me to have been a tremendous waste of money. And because it had to cost money. And I mean, again, maybe money's nothing to these people, and time and effort, because if the goal is subjugation or to cause people to have false hope, I'm not sure I'm the correct spokesperson for that. I think there's a sense of wonder in life, and there's a sense of joy, and there's a sense of potential, and to actualize that potential, to feel that in a sense, I don't know how to describe it, but when you're going to win the lottery that night, it's a grand feeling. and to think that some group out there says, we want Gary to have those feelings, and we want him to feel special, and at the same time, it becomes so muddled, and like, well, what's the end game here, right? I'm just not in that camp. I feel like there's so much in life that is so all inspiring, and God is in nature, and just you see the intricacies of flowers and birds and everything, even a spider's web, a lowly spider, which I talked about earlier, and you see, I've looked at certain spiders' webs in the morning dew, and you see the intricacy, and you could even take a little ruler and measure between the little strands where the spider spun it overnight. It's amazing, all right? And it just, you have to take it in its totality and say, wow, there's a wow factor here. Sure, the spider's got a brain, and there's neurons and all these little things, and it's got instinct and things, but we don't really understand any of that. on a fundamental level. I mean, we theorize, and the word instinct means something in conversation. We don't understand. We perhaps will understand the mechanisms, but never what's behind the mechanism, and that's what's important.
Hold that thought. We'll be back in a flash. But if you don't like hearing the ads, then I have a solution for you. You can get ad-free and early access to this show and Bizarre Encounters with Shayn Orin on the Open Minds Media Patreon for just $1 a month. That's less than the price of a bag of chips, and it's a great way to support the show and all the hard work behind it. And if you're interested in merch store discounts or premium video versions of the show, then there are a few other tiers with additional benefits and 7-day free trials available. Now let's get back into it.
And that's like, I drive my car, and I am not a mechanic, and I trust that the car will go from A to B to Z, et cetera, until I need a mechanic, until I have a reason. I don't preoccupy myself with learning how to fix my car if it has a problem. But for the most part, I don't even have to think about it. I just get behind the wheel and drive to my destination. And there are people out there who do think about it, and they understand how the engine works. They understand the differences between gas engine and electric engine and limitations, all that. It's not necessary to have an appreciation. Maybe it's a different appreciation, sure. But it's not necessary to understand everything to appreciate everything. So I feel like this podcast is an opportunity, a platform for me to share something that seems extraordinary. Maybe others are sharing something of similar, experience. I don't understand it, and I'm going to be the first to say there seems to be an element of humor here, whether divinely inspired or something else. Real world results with winning lottery numbers. That confound the skeptics. Some of the skeptics, they really cannot understand how I can take my cell phone, and if I put it in a Faraday pouch, you know what a Faraday cage is? Yeah. Put my track phone in a Faraday pouch where it's not supposed to be able to get the signals in and out. I can still record these EVPs in that pouch, which according to our understanding of science shouldn't happen. But then people get hung up on that, and instead of like, well, let's get hung up on what's going, why are the EVPs even here? I mean, isn't that the real focus, or should be the real focus? Not how they're getting in and out of a closed, sealed environment, but that they exist in the first place, that I'm able to interact with them, that I'm able to have interactions where they deliberately and directly answer questions before I ask them. Upon playback, hearing this, isn't that what the focus should be? And interpretation beyond that is like something else. It's a whole different category. Let people write their papers, their white papers on that. I'm not doing anything like that. I'm just putting on the table, this is interesting. And that's where I am,
Well, I'm glad that you entertain the idea that you don't know exactly what it is. Because a lot of people that have experiences like this, they come and they say like they know exactly what it is. They know it's completely safe, or it's, completely something that's not safe. Like, I'm glad that you're one of the people that actually will entertain multiple ideas on what this thing could potentially be. And with that, you also kind of proceed with caution to a certain extent, and you're not just full blown into it and not necessarily knowing what you're getting involved with. Like, I'm glad that you go about the things that you do in the way that you do, because it's a lot more than can be said for a lot of people that would be experiencing something like this.
Yeah. And I thank you for that. It's part of my nature to try to be, let's follow the data. All right. I mean, because we can have preconceptions, we can have hypotheses, et cetera, but they don't always pan out, and you have to adjust with what you find. And I don't understand it. And I'm just showing here some real world results that are kind of cool. I mean, tens of thousands of dollars in money that, fell into my lap, the odds of me doing it and knowing beforehand and all that. And having the clip that people can then reference, and a clip that opens other clips, apparently, so you can continue conversations, is absolutely ludicrous, nuts. And yet there it is. And I encourage people to go to my website and do it on their own. All right. subscribe to, and I'm not a person, I have no stock in Google or anything. I'm just saying Google Mail was nice because the size they gave you with, the mailbox and everything when it first came out, it was available. And then Google Voice, I'm like, well, I just need to have an unlisted number. And this sounds great. It's integrated into my email so people can call and I can read their messages. And this thing keeps falling out of my ear. Oh, Lord. It's one of those nights. And so having that, it just came to me. Now, could you say somebody did, voice to skull and they put it in, you said that you would find this and it was all part of, sure, I can imagine all that's possible, but I doubt it. I'm just not important enough for anyone to waste such time. They could do this with someone who actually has the talent and the resources. You ever watch that movie years ago, John Travolta in Phenomenon?
Yeah.
And he was frustrated because why did it happen to him? Why didn't it happen to somebody who had the ability to take that and make it something that would be exceptional? Why, the scientist, he wasn't born, instead he was born in that small town and he had the limitations of that, even though he had those gifts that were, apparently inspired by, at least the movie leads you to believe, some kind of brain tumor, which was inspired perhaps by something else, Light in the Sky. Good movie, though. I like one of my favorite John Travolta's because it's kind of laid back. And anyhow, I'm just trying to say, I just can't see the point or purpose in having me even do these podcasts if it could be done by someone else so much better, if they wanted to really get the message out. I'm saying if there's a group of people saying we have the technology, we just can't, expose the world to it yet. Let's use people like Gary, who, like me, who are kind of, a regular person, and just, have him go out there and talk. Maybe that, who knows? I mean, there are people out there who would say that's the right kind of disclosure because it doesn't come from the elites. It doesn't come from the government or the military. It comes from the streets. It comes from, the pockmarked streets, and it comes from a common man or woman. Maybe that, I have the curse of seeing things from all sides.
Even in the simplest means, maybe you were just somebody that was lucky enough that picked up on it. Maybe it was one of those things that the frequency was going out, right, and it was a matter of who's going to pick up on it first, and it just happened to be you. Maybe it wasn't you specifically. It's just right place, right time, and
right. You're right, and I, at this juncture, at this moment, I can say, lucky me. But what? And everything's relative. So. Talk to me 10 years from now, I'll be like, that's the word. Because you talk about the lottery again. You hear some of these stories where people win hundreds of millions of dollars and their lives fall apart. And like that one guy who won the monster lottery years ago, and he's dead now. And his granddaughter was killed, and just people robbed him. And it was like, he said, winning the lottery was like the worst thing that ever happened to him. And we all have these fantasies or these idealizations of, oh yeah, this is going to be great. My life will then start, happening once I do. No, your life is here and now. I've always believed my happiness and my joy doesn't come from that. The simple joys and simple pleasures like good food, good family, good friends, my hobbies with birds, rock collecting, my interest in literature and stuff, poetry and music. I love music. Been so many concerts over the years. Yeah, when a side note, when I first got the ear ringing in December 14th, 2017, I thought, oh my God, I've really destroyed my hearing going to some of these concerts and not using hearing protection. And I was into some hard rock for years, and also country music, but. Then I realized that sound is not the same as the ear ringing I got from going to concerts. It's not, it's certainly not tinnitus. I've been to ear, nose, and throat specialists, my doctor, she sees me every few years, just about every year actually, and we discuss my story and stuff. And my hearing's actually gotten better. Nothing makes any sense. And for my age, because like I said, I'm turning 58 on Sunday. I've had a pretty easy life. Thank God or the cosmos or whatever, and no real complaints. A lot of things I don't understand. And again, this knife, it was my dad's, has so much value. That was, I guess, a dramatic thing. The significance, the echoes today continues, and so that's the magic. Do I believe there's always super soldiers and people who are invisible who could have done that? People. There's a point where you got to say, okay, I don't think so, and I don't think any of this really, what I'm describing here, is man-made. All right, and that could be in a combination. There could be some people that have learned some of this tech too, but I really think. Maybe it's my disposition, my sunny disposition, my belief in the goodness in the world, that, this is a blessing. And these beings, whatever they are, they seem to take an interest in what I'm doing, what we're doing as a species. And some are quite kind and benevolent and caring, and others are not, just like people. I try to associate with most of the time with those who are uplifting because, I'm a happy-go-lucky person. And I just want, it's just at the end of my story, at least in this plane, I want to say, hey, I give this away. I don't want any money. I don't ask for a dime. My documentaries, everything, it's all out there for public consumption. You can test the EVPs. Like I said, register Google Voice. Check it out. You can play my EVPs and ask questions and see what the Google transcription transcribes. And it's a wild and crazy world, and I'm a happy guy.
Stay tuned, guys. This is our last break. But if you enjoyed the show and you think I deserve it, then please leave a review or rating for this show on iTunes, Spotify, or any other podcatcher you happen to use. Your continued support is what makes this show possible, and your opinions go a long way to help the show grow and improve. So thank you. Now feel free to skip past these ads so we can get back to the show. And we are back, so let's get back to it.
And before we get into letting everybody know where they can go and check out all of those links and be able to check out all of your audio recordings and everything, I always like to end the show with some words of wisdom. And I know that you've been speaking a little bit of words of wisdom towards the end, but if there was any words of wisdom you could bestow on the listeners, what might it be?
I will paraphrase, and it's a quote almost everybody's heard. The truth is stranger than fiction.
Ain't
and
that the truth?
That is, if you go back, Mark Twain, and you have other people who've had similar quotes, but check it out, and there is an essence here. You can't make up this. It's just so out there, and it boggles the mind, and you can really you can open up so many questions that you'll never get all the answers. So I pick and choose what I'm going to focus on. And like I said, I pick and choose. I focus on those interactions that are positive. If they try to be scary, I see right through that, because I think there's some that are manipulative on purpose. And I think it is a way to gauge maybe an interaction, to say, well, is he able to be comfortable with what we are if we say things that he doesn't want to hear? And how can we say it in a way that is thought-provoking? So, yeah. So the truth is stranger than fiction. It's cliche. It's been part of, the Eastern, I'm saying the Western way of thought. And Mark Twain, he had it in his some of his stories. I think Pudd'nhead Wilson. But you can check out Mark Twain. Just look up Truth is Stranger Than Fiction. If you want to find me, all right, you can look up my name, Gary Arnold, Medium. All right. You put those together, you'll find We Are Not Alone, Gary Arnold. And that's my compendium site. That is the site that was originally just supposed to be one article on Medium, on that platform, that I bastardized and turned into this monstrous compendium site with links to everything else. And that's the launch pad. You can go and you can check out everything. Now my wife and kids, they're like, Dad, we need to get you a better website. We need to make it user friendly. This is clunky. I've even had researchers say, I have to keep scrolling and scrolling for minutes to find what I want here. Can't you at least have something with menus and shortcuts?
Early 2000s website style. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, and that's what nostalgic. It is. That's what it is. So I'm an old school guy. I got my old school track phone. This is what I affectionately call the conduit. I cannot translate these. That if I hear this noise, I don't hear voices. This will translate whatever the noise is in my right ear only. All right, my right ear only. It translates it into what sounds like audible speech, the EVPs, and we take it from there. Everything is open source, right? Like I said, this is free for everybody. Everybody can do this. Open source technology where you can go and you can take your clips and you can amplify them. You can increase, like I said, the volume. You can change the format from MP3 to WAV, whatever you want to do. It's all out there. Today, everybody has access to, tools that can help you discover the truth, in your own way. And I've had these documentaries done, and they were all done on a single shoestring budget. And that was before I won the lottery. And it was just like, I wanted to get the information to the people. And some of them have reports and analyses. You can see it's all there. It's all free. If you want to donate, any money goes to that. Will go to charity. I am just trying to say everything's free. It's for you. It's for the people. I believe in sharing this outrageous truth, whatever it is. Ultimately, I still am mystified, but I think it's good. I think it's good to stay curious. And like I try on the Medium site, alchemy. That's where chemistry came out of the fertile ground of alchemy. So early on, people they were trying to turn, the philosopher's stone, they were trying to turn base metals into silver, gold, etc.
CERN did that actually for a split second as of like a week or so ago. Just to throw that in here.
I was gonna tie that in. See, I try to be contemporary and current, but
I didn't mean to jump ahead. My mistake.
You beat me to it. But it's true. It's true. The world is a wondrous place. All I'm putting on the table is something curious that runs counter to the narrative we've been told, and probably upsets some people. I know it does, that I even am out here talking about it, because a lot of people depend on the way things were continuing for the most part. So people continue to, act the way they did. The whole thing now where everybody, you're a consumer and that's what matters. And this could really, mess things up when people are like, oh, I'm not going to work today because I'm afraid of these, what I call the intangibles. That's what I've named them. It's more of they didn't tell me to name them that. It's like, well, I'm going to just throw a new name in here because they're impalpable. They're ethereal. So I call them the intangibles. And it almost sounds kind of like Marvel or something. I'm not trying to be like that. But yeah, you'll be able to find my YouTube channel. You'll be able to find, I'm on X. I'm all over the place. I don't do Instagram because they banned me. I upset some people. They got scared.
I say I had you for like a week on there.
Yeah. Then they get rid of it. And so there's somebody out there pretending to be me, and I'm like, okay, whatever. That's not me. And my kids and stuff said, Dad, are you? I said, no, I'm not. And I said, so I let my friends and people know that's not me. I'm not on Instagram. But what I am, like I said, the other social media stuff, I've dabbled. I don't do TikTok, although I do. My kids with the Sherberts, they had a TikTok thing going with the Sherbert page. You can see my pigeons. My pigeons are also on the YouTube channel, and I have my life is a lot more than just aliens or ghosts. I have videos of when I used to be in a band and the music we played, and back in the 90s. And and the same thing on my YouTube channel. I have Into the Weather, as I said. We had a tornado pass less than a mile from here back in 2021, September 1st. And it was an F2 tornado, and I went afterwards and videotaped, some of where it started, the ground zero, where it touched down, the cornfield, what it did to it. And then it went into town and destroyed some homes. Luckily, nobody got hurt or died. But yeah, so I mean, I've have nothing to complain about. Just offer all this for free, and want you guys to explore on your own. And email me. I answer every email. I want to be accessible. I want to be real. I want to be transparent. I want everything to be free, so nobody says I'm a grifter or something like that. I don't want your money. And if you want to check with the lottery, they'll confirm that I've won, and they will not talk about my techniques. And that's fine. I mean, like I said, I already know the next winning number, and it's just a matter of when the day comes together. I will make sure that everybody knows. So. And then that's the way. There's a way to break through the glass ceiling, and it's a way that has to be maybe. Let's draw that parallel. Dramatic. When that knife came back to me, and the thunderclap, no lightning, no storms in the area. It was, and there was no destruction. There it is. I think that's the way, at least in today's world, you need to be able to break through to be heard. Almost like, going back again to that Dr. Seuss book, Horton Hears a Who, when all the Whos united to make a voice simultaneously, they were able to break through and be heard. You have to get that moment where it's a tipping point, and technology and everything's letting the regular person be able to do things that before only the elite and select few could do. Like I said, open source technology, AI, is making it all the better for the average person. I'm all about disclosure, but I do believe the disclosure that there's more in life, that we're not alone, is coming from the regular person. All right. It's not going to come from the government. It's not going to come from, they'll come along after the fact, but it will be spearheaded by people and the everyday experiences of the common man. I believe that.
Ain't that the truth? Well, man, I really appreciate you making the time to come on today. I'm glad that we're finally able to do this, and we're going to have to do some type of update at some point. Once that other number comes, we're definitely going to have to do an update, man, because I want to hear more about this story as it progresses, because I can tell that it's nowhere near over. So
I feel the same way. Thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
If you guys enjoyed today's conversation, want to show some love, smash the follow icon and share today's episode with a friend. Grassroots support from listeners like you guys is exactly how the show grows, so thank you. And if you guys would like to get in touch with me for any reason whatsoever, you guys can do so through email, which is inquiriesofourrealitypodcast@outlook.com, or through social media. Instagram and Facebook are the ones I'm the most active on. Or you guys can also get a hold of me through the submission form, which is available at the top of the link tree. And the last way you guys can get a hold of me is through the hotline. That number is 313-364-1551. You guys can text or call that, whatever happens to be easier for you guys. And if you guys have some free time, don't forget to check out the awesome friends of the show, I Know Squatch, Snario Natural Products, Crypto Theology, and Big Ape Threads, and our other friends with affiliate links, Dimension Devices, Oregon-ite, and Sticker Mule, with additional discounts and credits available. More information on those, of course, is available down in the show notes. And every single thing that I mentioned is all available in the link tree, which is also available down in those show notes. And with that, hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. Hope today's show's connected some dots in your own reality, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Have a good night, everybody.
Reality isn't what it seems. I'm Dr. D's taking aboard a craft with a tractor beam. Is life a simulation or an astral dream? Aliens travel through black holes in different galaxies. Life is a bizarre odyssey, with a mic talking about philosophy. Well, Bigfoot is stalking campers as a Wendigo walks through the woods of sharpened antlers, using a Ouija board to talk to the dead like a necromancer. There's so many questions and not enough answers. So if you're interested in mysteries and abnormalities, tune in and listen to Inquiries of Our Reality. So if you're interested in mysteries and abnormalities,